So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Wednesday, April the 21st, 2021. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on 314 while we're waiting on Michael to come in. So welcome. Who do we have?
Hi, Jeanie. It's Doug. I just wanted to quickly chime in that I think the book Susan may have been looking for is The Boy Crisis by Gray and Warren Farrell, because she got that from the podcast, which I didn't watch, but it was something John Gray, I thought, had been a part of, and he wrote that with William Farrell, The Boy Crisis. So I wanted to pass that on to her as possible. Useful. No, I'm not hearing anything. I don't know if it's my phone or something else here.
Oh, I said, sorry, I was typing, so I hit my mute button. I'll put that in the notes. Thank you for that. Okay. And then I asked, how was your day going?
Oh, well, it's going okay. Not great. I wasn't really going to...
You didn't intend to get into your stuff, right?
Right. I just heard that conversation and knew the book, and I wanted to put that in there.
Okay, Susan sent me a text and said, tell you thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right.
So you sure you don't want to get into your stuff?
I just say that Susan Jordan Peterson has some excellent material that might be useful as well. Okay, that's just my sense on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to listen to what's happening. So, elsewhere, for the moment.
Very good.
I may revisit it if I feel the need. Thanks.
Well, if you do, you just press 1, and we'll be right here.
Come on, Doug. Come on, Doug.
Susan sent me another text and said, tell you to go rip it. Go for it.
I'm totally unprepared for coherent thought on anything else at the moment.
Come on, we need some grist for the mill, Doug.
Michael.
Can't you give us something, some kind of a morsel?
I don't know.
Okay. I got it. So your work is you're done. You got it all handled. That's awesome.
No, yeah, right. No, that's far from the truth. I just don't know what my entry point would be. I have to organize my thoughts. If you don't get callers, maybe I'll push 1 a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. We appreciate you.
Thanks. You betcha. Bye.
And we send that young lady in your life our love and blessings, and we ask everybody in the community if you'd please send support. So, Diane, you've heard her on the show before, and she's been going through a COVID round, so holding her in love, and just ask everybody to send love in her direction and healing and support. She's doing pretty well. Looks like she's on the upside of it. Thank God. So holding her in a blessing.
So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. Welcome, everybody. Honored and delighted that you're here with us as we enter into this conversation one more time, and seeing as how Susan is there, wanting Doug to hang out after pushing 1, maybe Susan could give us a little grist for the mill. Maybe there's something happening for Susan. She really is making projection that she wants Doug to talk.
You guys are sly.
Maybe it's projection. Maybe.
I was on
Go ahead.
Tim Hayes's hour talking about the podcast with John Gray that he did where he talks about the importance of nutrition and balancing our, making sure that we have enough minerals. And he talks about a kind of lithium, which isn't the kind that's prescribed by psychiatrists. I can't remember the name of it, although it's been said to me so many times, octate or something like that, and how getting the right stuff into your system. Yeah, right. So I called Dr. Tim and said, has he made a concoction? I'll buy it. I mean, it sounds as if he listed a lot of things, magnesium, zinc, calcium, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to set up an apothecary over here, but I would love to, if he has made a concoction and is selling it, I'd love to try it. And so that's how we got going on that. But it was a wonderful talk. I was just interested on the fact that his what he writes about is so much like your work, and that often happens when we get to a certain point. We realize some basic things is it's all an inside job mainly, but it was just fun to hear. It's very good if you haven't listened to it, not that you have a whole lot of time, but John Gray, he's the one that wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, and he's written about 20 books, I guess, now. So I didn't have a real issue. Well, I always have issues. Who doesn't have issues? But I guess I'm just dealing with, I loved what Jeanie said the other day about how she had all these wonderful realizations and then went down into the depths. I have been doing that. I'm okay now, but it's like being on a roller coaster ride, and I love that you call it a healing crisis, and I'm always hopeful that it'll pass soon, and it always does, knock on wood. The concept of a healing crisis is the best thing. Otherwise, you'd add panic to your panic or depression to your depression, whereas you can look at it as a positive thing, a natural phase in growing and healing. But I love that Jeanie told about that. And I had a friend who was a psychoanalyst years ago who suffered from depression himself. He said, depression is hell. And so, I just felt for Jeanie that she went through that, and I'm so glad she came out the other side, and I hope you're still out the other side, Jeanie.
I am. I'm doing really well. But it was, I told Michael it's like it was not in my conscious level of I couldn't have even pinpointed at the time that it was depression. It's just like this darkness. And
wow.
I just said, I figure that I'm just tired. And
yeah.
But it passed, during the night, through my dreams and things like that. So basically, 12 hours and it was gone. Whereas when I first went through the experience, it was years.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
And I would offer, Jeanie, another thought in there. My offering would be, it didn't pass. It healed. There's a difference.
Oh.
If people ignore things long enough, if they eat enough junk food, if they drink enough whiskey, if they do this and this and this, they say, well, yeah, that passed. I'm finished with that now. But it's under the surface. But what you did was open the space for deeper hidden parts of your mind and your physiology to show up, and you courageously stayed with the process, kept doing, which is the exact opposite of what many people do. You kept doing the right things. Many people, when they go into that healing crisis, step into doing more of the negative habits and reinforce the factors that keep trauma going and moving in the system. So rather than just it passing, which, they say time heals all wounds. Well, no, it doesn't. It just allows us to hide from ourselves. And so we're not, in this work, we're not looking to get things to pass. We're looking to face things, to be with things as the truth of them is in our minds, and then bring the bigger truth delivered by the active presence of love forward and transmuting that energy. And so it did more than pass for you. You were in the depths of it, and understanding how the healing process works, and you're going through it gave me still another level of insight into the process. Being so close to it, you kept on track. It was not something you could verbalize, but it was something that you were willing to be with, and kept inviting support, asking support, doing the right things. Didn't run and, take your favorite drug, get a mouthful of sugar or caffeine or what have you. You stayed on track, and you came out the other side of it. And that's the difference between healing and perpetuating insanity. So that would be my offering.
I accept.
Does that fit me? Yeah. I'm with you. How about you, young lady? What do you think, Susan?
Oh, I think it's great. I think it takes a lot of courage, and I do know about that kind of call. I had a good friend in New Haven when we lived there, and she was older than I was, and I asked her one day, "How are you?" And she said, "I don't know. I just can't get anything done. I just can't focus on anything." And I said, "You sound depressed." She said, "Oh, no, I don't think I'm depressed. I just can't get anywhere." And then she called me later and she said, "You're right. That's what it is. And now I can do something." I guess she didn't even have a word for it, but it's aimlessness. And she was a very productive, very bright woman. So this was a hard thing for her. So.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And, if you don't have the brain cells, you can't go to a new level.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the reasons for doing this show is to support people continuously hooking up to a higher set of brain cells than the world runs on, and being able to walk and work through those things that never belonged, and not get stuck, which is what most people do, because they don't know the next step to take. If your car, you've got a tire in your car that's going low, you've got the brain cells, the next step to take. You go and you get air put in the tire. If the tire goes soft again, there's a leak. You got the brain cells for that. Mm-hmm. But we don't have a healing based culture in our culture. We have a disease-based culture. So even doctors don't know. Doctors don't know that, you just got to the next new level of vitality. You are rocking. You are going, okay, so watch what's going to come up for you next. It's like, and when people come in with that next, they say, well, here, let me give you a drug. Let me just see if we can shut that down so you don't have to deal with it, rather than, oh, boy, that's so cool. Let's empower you. Let's strengthen you. Let's move through this. Here's a new nutrient that can help strengthen you and keep you on track.
Yeah. Michael, today in my Zoom class, one of my people who comes and goes, came in and said, "I'm feeling so great." And I said, "What happened?" And she said, "I'm on an SSRI." And I think she said it was Zoloft or something. And she said, "I know I have my work to do, but this has put me to a point where I feel as if I can now get to work. I wasn't even well enough to get to work. And now I'm in couples counseling with my husband. We were separating. We were going to separate. We're finding our way back to each other. She has the commitment sheet. She said we're using those principles. We're treating each other intentionally, much more kindly. I've sent her the responsibility communication sheet too, and she said we're using that. And that plus the work with the therapist plus the drug, I think I can climb out of this abyss that I've been in for so long. So there again, there's a drug there. And I know you have said if you have a terrible headache, take the aspirin. You haven't ever said don't take what the doctor might offer, but you have said, if I got you right, you said, take it and do your work and get off it as soon as you can.
Take it and do your work. That's the key. It's like, there are two different arenas here. There's treatment and then there's healing.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture purveys treatment as healing, and it's not. Taking a drug has never healed anything for anybody. This woman, and she's being, in her condition, it sounds like she's being supported by the drug, and that's awesome, And if she were to just live the drug out, it will create probably some pretty monstrous diseases for her. But she's got it in its proper place. There's a place for that stuff, no question. It's called treatment. It can be hugely, hugely helpful. And in the case like she's talking about, gee, I've got enough relief that I can get conscious and do my work. So now we've got treatment laid alongside of healing. That's the perfect combination. I wouldn't suggest that people do only healing either, because that can be a challenge. If I'm missing a nutrient and I have this issue that I want to deal with, and I eat junk food and I never do anything about my dietary regimen or get the nutrients that I need, I'm never going to work through this issue. I'm never going to heal this issue because I don't have the vitality to without that energetic nutrient that is needed for my tissue structure to function properly and for elimination to occur properly, to remove that. So, it's like, let's do all of the above, and it's right on track. That's awesome that she's doing both, and that she's got someone there to support her in doing it. That's fabulous.
She came back to the group. She hasn't been there for several weeks. And, I don't hound people. I say, we miss you, but, one of those come and go as you need sort of arrangements. So she said she's really ready to get to work, and she is working, and it's so great. So she's definitely using your tools.
Well, she'll probably have some sweet experiences to share with the group to open the understanding of healing. That she'll probably make some major contributions with that combination of tools in hand. That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. If there isn't enough hands up, just what?
Go ahead.
Sugar. Sugar has been an addiction of mine. I have a way of giving it up and then letting a little bit creep in, and I look at my tongue and see if my tongue is looking coated, because that's the dead giveaway. Don't you love that word? Anyway,
actually, your tongue being coated is a long way down the line from telling you've got a problem.
That's good to know, because anyway, I know it's part of the healing process that you go.
If you wait for your tongue to get coated, you've wasted a lot of time. Okay,
good. I'm glad. That's great reinforcement. I hereby announce to the small community that I am going off sugar again. Bully. Who cares? But this is an ongoing thing.
We care about you, and we care about your healing. And we're delighted that you're ready to take yourself to the next level, and you're going to go to the next level of vitality. And that means that a new layer of healing opportunities are going to come. And this kind of fits with the whole conversation. I made an announcement about this yesterday. I was talking about, and I shared a little bit, but I have another person who has been involved in this work and disappeared from this work and touches it occasionally, and is involved in many conspiracy theories and, such, a lot of hostility going on. And we spoke back, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I confronted his conspiracy theories with what for me was truth and invited him to look. And at one point, he just literally, over the phone, he's out in California, he literally screamed at me. I mean, oh my God, raging, screaming over the phone at me because I was calling BS on his BS. He did not like it. And he sent me a video yesterday where he's he's also a musician, and he wrote a song, basically a new way of presenting his conspiracy theories and BS. And so I took some of the basic information we've been talking about and that I shared yesterday, and I'm going to just share it the way I'm writing it. I'm not complete with it as yet. It's an ongoing piece that I'm writing to him, but I'm just going to share it the way that I have been writing it, and it just expands on this principle that we're talking about of what happens when the healing crisis comes. So I'm writing to him, and I'll, of course, keep his name private, but I'm writing to him saying, suggestion. Instead of figuring out how to channel your rage energy into fake causes, I encourage you to get out the worksheets and begin again to do your real healing work. Recall the last conversation we had, and you went off like a raging maniac at me, as though I could possibly be the cause of such insanity surfacing from within you. My dear friend, you've gotten stuck. Here's what's happened. Each new depth of experience of the presence of love, each peak experience, each new level of vitality requires a new level of commitment to do your work. For there is a danger that comes with the peak experience that everyone desires. A new level of love is a new level of vitality, which means a new depth of unresolved dynamics works its way to the surface and becomes transparently integrated into your perception. Your new rage, grief, pain-based perception looks like enlightenment from the inside. After all, I just had this wonderful new insight and experience, so my perception must be on track, right? No. All mind constructs that contain any form of fear, hostility, or even the slightest irritation are projections. Remember, you're feeling it. Each perceptual construct is a reflection of and sourced from your physiology. It informs you accurately about the content of your mind. No matter how subtly denied and pointed by a false perceptual construct seemingly at another object of attention, including and especially self or those in close proximity, a spouse, a friend, a teacher, supporter, or enemy, or even me. All perception is based in even the most subtle fear and or hostility is false. It is a lie. It is insane, and a teacher who's worked through that level of deception in his or her own mind is needed, or one gets lost. My friend, you've been entrapped by your unresolved power person dynamic of what looks like rational rage. There is no rational rage. Rage is a drug, an internally produced anesthetic that is a deeply deceptive cover for dissociated pain that sooner or later has to be allowed to surface in the presence of pure love in order to be transmuted. To maintain access to that new level of love and aliveness, you must work through what has been loosed by the new level of vitality and aliveness that has been achieved. If that piece of work is not done, that newly available unresolved associated content becomes the new root of the perceptual output of the mind and becomes the new norm for your view of the world. That world, the world of false perception, is an internal construct that sadly many get lost in for their whole lives.
Bravo, Michael.
And
it's
that's
great
the
that
danger.
You could do that. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm learning. I am the perpetual student, and
well, it's a tremendous challenge. We talked about that in our Zoom meetings about conspiracy theorists and what's the momentum or the impetus behind that. And it seems to be fear, just needing to have control of information, whatever it is. But I have done worksheets on a friend who's a conspiracy theorist, and that letter, boy, really good.
Well, I'll post it to you, and perhaps it will help to open the space for healing. And for me, it's a new level of comprehension that empowers us with this work to really support people. As you say, people come and go, and oftentimes over the years, I've seen people who left, and it maybe took 10 years for them to come back. And I'm realizing now I didn't have the brain cells for it back then. I couldn't explain it. I didn't understand it. But now I'm realizing what happened is, they hit this new level, and they loosed some of that old trauma, and that trauma became the new norm that they saw the world through, and they projected it. And until that's understood, we're stuck with it. And so, it's all a matter of building brain cells and getting to the point of making the new level of vitality so present that everything less than that dissolves.
Mm.
So again, the task becomes taking that new level of vitality and really doing what it takes to maintain it, and have that as the root of the new norm for the perceptual output of your mind, rather than the garbage that's loosened up by the new level of vitality displacing sanity and becoming the new norm for the mind.
Mm.
So it's an interesting process. We're learning. On we go.
Sure. Yeah.
So anything else on your mind for today?
No, Michael, that was good. Thank you so much. And if you would send me that letter.
I will. I'm got a little more
helpful.
work to do on it. When I complete it, I'll send it.
Well, there's no rush because we're not really even talking much. So we know we're on different sides of the fence, and I think, we don't want to come to blows, or maybe we do, and we're avoiding it. But anyway, yeah.
Well, this fellow that I'm writing this to is someone that, he did the work 20 years ago. He spent a whole summer at Heartland. And actually about the third, it came for a 9-day intensive. And about the third day he was there, this dynamic happened. He went into a rage, he got in his car and drove away. He was leaving. And about half an hour later, I realized that he'd taken off. So I called him and said, "What are you doing? You're in the middle of your healing process. Get your buns back here," which he did do. And Jeanie will know by this description who it is that we're talking about. And he spent the whole summer at Heartland. And it was a crazy summer. This guy was pretty out there with his whole perceptual mind and an abusive past and several addictions. And he gave the addictions up for the summer. And his addiction was to excess. And one of the things we were doing at one point that summer, and this will cement it for Jeanie so she knows what I'm talking about. I haven't mentioned this to her. This has just been a recent conversation. But we were doing a liver flush. And when you do the liver flush, you do about 4 ounces of high-quality olive oil. So he joined us in doing the liver flush. But he decided that if 4 ounces was good, then, and I forget, he did like 3 or 4 times that. He ended up, talk about a cleanse. He got one, but he's a person who, just like he does everything, he's going for it and does it to excess. And we've, kept in touch over the years. He's kind of backed off of the work, but we became friends and we touch and we kibitz, and we've been able to play with these, this conspiracy stuff, who's on which side of the political spectrum, and we kind of play with it and kibitz with it, and it's been okay. But just a few weeks ago, it was like, it became just a little bit too outrageous, and I really put my foot down and said, wait a minute. cut the crap. This is just pure, and I mean, literally screaming, raging on the phone. So,
that's
anyway, that's all for me. There. That's been part of this learning process. It's been part of what I'm learning about what this plateau is that people can hit and how to get off of it. So,
yeah,
what fun.
That's good that you can say that. That's wonderful. Good.
Well, you know, there's a saying a friend of mine up in Wisconsin has, and she has a workshop called Taking Yourself Lightly, and her byphrase is, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I tend to take myself heavily or anybody else, there's my next piece of work.
Yep.
Very sweet. Thank you for your input on the worksheet, by the way. I will be integrating some of that, not for tonight, but I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I didn't know if I was really overreaching there, but I have a sub-personality that is a copy editor.
No, please. Any more feedback like that, I'm right here for it, you know. This work is developed with help from a lot of people, and I appreciate your inquiring mind, your wisdom, your intelligence, and input. So it is very much appreciated.
Thanks. I'll be on tonight when I can get there.
Right. I understood that from your message. So sweet.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you later, young lady.
Okay. Thanks, Michael.
All right. Blessings. Appreciate you. All right, Miss Jeanie, I'm going to jump in and read a paragraph or two from Why Is This Happening to Me Again? We're on I think it's chapter 10 on ancient wisdom, and we're talking to Richard, the character in the book, about the Aramaic language, and that there's a big disconnect between what was taught in many of the original what have become religious teachings, and they were teachings that weren't religious at all. And so we've been talking about that with this character, Richard. And by the way, we're on page 58 if you're following us in the book. And if you don't have a copy of the book, you can find it on Amazon or on eBay. Usually you can find a used copy. We put out a bunch of tens of thousands of books back in the early part of the century. Seems strange to say now that we're in 2021, but that's what we did. So there are a lot of those books still hanging around as used copies that people are selling on Amazon or eBay, what have you. So you can order it there, or you can go to our website and you can download it free in any one of several different languages. So please get a copy and read with us. So we're looking at this idea that things are not always as they appear from the words in the ancient scriptures, that the Aramaic ideas were at a whole different level than what is presented by the average teacher of scriptures. And so Richard has just told me how a lot of those, you know, the sayings and such haven't made any sense to him, and how the hypocrites would do the exact opposite of what they said they were going to do or were advising others to do, and how turned off he was. And so I offered him the thought, I hear it was confusing for you to see people not walking their talk, with the amount of energy and resistance you have around that conversation. I suspect you were abused due to their hypocrisy. Were you? My folks talked about love and honesty at church, but beat me up verbally and physically at home. If I spoke up or asked why they acted so differently in public, the beatings doubled. I had to lie to keep the family secrets. I had to be dishonest in order to make it look like everything was okay, or I'd be punished. Keeping up appearances was demanded of me. It was pretty crazy. While I was being lectured on the value of telling the truth, I was required to live a lie. Richard bit his nails as he replayed his story. The way he was sitting reminded me of a scared, angry little boy, perched on the edge of his seat, ready to escape. I saw hypocrisy in the minister and the deacons. lots of people. They were always telling me I was a sinner. That was painful, he said. As he finished his story, he was rigid and holding his breath. Take a breath, Richard. Holding your breath is exactly how you acquire a past about something and carry it with you. Holding your breath attaches the pain of an experience to a reality in the mind. If that reality is triggered, even though external circumstances do not justify it, there will be pain. And so we'll just let that couple of paragraphs sink in and recognize the deep, deep, deep significance. I mean, beyond what we could even conceive of staying connected with your breath, of keeping, especially in the face of trauma, your breath moving. Most people subventilate most of their lives. And when we subventilate, we lock the pain and trauma that we're in resistance against literally into the tissue structure. And allowing the breath to move. You know, when you find yourself in upcoming these feelings, I don't want to feel them, I don't want to be with them, just notice that what most people do is they just stop breathing. And that's the way of holding on. The way of letting go is to keep breathing, to keep the presence of love there and keep the breath moving so that you can process through those feelings. You know, in the ancient scriptures where they told us in the Greek translations that, quote unquote, God sent out his spirit, doesn't say that in Aramaic. What it says, quite literally in Aramaic, is the Creator sent out its breath. And when we cut ourselves off from the breath, we cut ourselves off from the Creator. When we cut ourselves off and it becomes an habitual state, subventilating most of the time, you know. I mean, people actually subventilate so much they have to get machines that they get attached to keep them breathing, especially at night. And if you've got one of those machines, I invite you to take a look at why is it that you're holding your breath so much that it's such a habit that in sleep you forget to take a breath. And it's a big money business, and I don't want to offend that business. Well, maybe I do. But we need to learn to breathe. We need to learn to keep our lungs functioning and open and moving because it's a direct link energetically to the active presence of love and the Creator. And so that's our lesson from the book today, and we are now at the 136 point, or it's now 136 or 137 maybe. Not sure, this clock's a little weird. So we're down to about 22, 23 minutes, which means we've got lots of time for a conversation. So how is everybody doing out there? And if you have a thought or a question for us, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581, 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show. And then if you have a question, push 1, and we'll be having a conversation. So, again, if you're on one of those stations where you can't see us, call. You'll be listening to the show directly on your phone, and then ask your question by pushing 1. So, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody out there in listener land with a hand up or anything happening in the phone queue? Or in the chat room, I should say.
No, there's no questions in the chat room, and there are no hands up. So we have 20 minutes now. If someone presses 1, you're first in line. We've got plenty of time. You know, yesterday someone pressed 1 just as I said, well, we're down to 2 minutes, and someone pressed 1. So we didn't get to you. So if you are on now, press 1, and let's talk while we've got time.
Yeah, it always interests me how people will call with the big question right at the last 2 or 3 minutes. It's like, well, you know, here we've got the space. We've got plenty of time for that conversation. So if you're out there in listener land, push 1. How can we support you? What's happening? What questions do you have about the work? What doesn't make sense about this idea of healing crisis? And, you know, the bottom line of healing crisis is that when you get to a new level of vitality, the things that you've been hiding from yourself by lowering your vitality, and you do people do things like, well, stopping breathing, holding the breath, lowers vitality. People eat junk, you almost, if you go into a restaurant in America today, you almost have to say, is there any nutrition in that food? Because if it's grown on commercial soils, where the K, they're chemical symbols, NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium. And they put that into soil. There are hundreds of nutrients that are designed to be in the soil. And they put that into soil and they grow food, what they call food, and it looks like food. But if the nutrients aren't there, if the energetic patterns that are needed to properly nourish, that is to keep this energy field called the body-mind unit moving properly, then there's a weakening process. And so if you're eating all commercially produced food and drinking the drinks of the culture that come with all kinds of chemicals and adulterants, sugar, phosphoric acid, you go to jail if you put phosphoric acid in a laundry detergent today, because they realized how destructive phosphoric acid was to rivers and streams and lakes. But, your little kid goes to school, and guess what? There is a company that gives payola to the school that allows him to put a machine in the school that kids bring money from home for, to buy the things, the drinks in those machines, that one of their base ingredients is phosphoric acid. You can't put it in laundry detergent, you go to jail, but you can bribe school officials to allow those machines in the schools so the kids can suck down phosphoric acid. That's where that, that bitey taste comes from. And then load it up with sugar, and they've proven that sugar is more addictive than caffeine. They took rats, and rats have similar addictive pathways to humans, and they put rats in environments where they had two different tubes they could go to for their drinks. One of them had just water, the other one had cocaine, the third one had sugar. And guess what? The stressed rats, even when they were purposely addicted to cocaine, would then, when sugar was introduced, would turn to the sugar in preference to the cocaine. And guess what? When they put those addicted creatures into environments where they had things to do, they had playmates, friends, and a rich sensory environment, guess what? They all gave up their addictions. We push addiction in this culture, and, people are addicted. They put them in jail like they're some kind of pariah, and they're not touchable. And so, yes, their addictions become worse, but, they learn that if you put people in a punished and punishing environment, they came from a punished and punishing environment. That's why they're addicted in the first place. You give them some tools, give them some support, caring, the presence of love, companionship, friendship, and addictions disappear. And so if we live in a world where we don't support ourselves properly, then we weaken the system and it goes into a disease process. When we come across something that strengthens us, then the system has the ability to start to throw off what does not belong. It's called a healing crisis, and it happens on the physical, mental, and emotional level. Now, energy moving in an energy system is just energy moving in an energy system. If the energy is going in and it's a dis-ease quality of energy, recognizing that there are basically two qualities of energy relative to the human system. There's that which strengthens and builds it, and that which destroys it. If we put a dis-ease, a weakening energy into the system, then one experiences the symptoms of disease. If they live an addictive lifestyle, then they use addiction, some addictive substance, to weaken themselves so much they don't get to experience that. When they start to reconnect with aliveness and life and joy and the presence of love, then they're strengthened, and in that strengthened space, there's a reversal of the energy flow, and now the energy that yesterday went in as disease starts to come out and is the healing of that disease process. So on a physical level, healing looks like any kind of physical symptom you've ever had and low energy. On a mental level, looks like any kind of negative thought you've ever had and confusion. On an emotional level, if any kind of negative feeling you've ever had and depression. And what Jeanie described earlier in the session was her realizing that she was tapping back into some old energetic patterns of dis-ease. And as you stay connected to love, and as you keep processing and moving and breathing, eating real food and nourishing yourself, doing your work, then the energy starts to lift and move out of the system. But on the way out, it looks exactly the way it did on the way in. There's no difference between the healing process in terms of symptoms and the disease process. They are absolutely identical. The only difference in them is what direction is the energy moving. And so when you start asking yourself that question and you start paying attention, there are 4 things that will tell you that your symptoms are healing in process rather than disease. One is you ask yourself the question, have I been doing more and more of the right things? Physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, nutritionally, exercise. If I'm doing more and more of the right things, then I'm strengthening. Second question I ask myself is, just before this set of symptoms occur, had I hit a new level of vitality? Was I at a new level of aliveness? The answer is yes and yes. Then the third question you ask yourself is, what's happening with my elimination? In a disease process, there's a tendency for there to be a restriction of the output of the eliminative organs. And we're talking about all of the eliminative organs. We're talking about the bowel, the urinary tract, the skin, the mucous membranes, sweat glands, lungs, sinuses, eliminative organs. If there's an increase, now you've got 3 things that are saying this is a healing process happening. Stay with it. The 4th thing is, and this is especially important to understand if you've ever been addicted, because in the healing process, as the old traumas that were suppressed by whatever addictive substance was used in the past, the energetic signature of those addictions are there in the tissue where the dis-ease energy was locked in. And as it starts to unlock and move out, that energetic signature, if not actual molecules of the addictive substance, start to release. And all of a sudden, one can't think about anything else but that addictive substance. I like to use the example of, everybody's heard about the guy who's been sober for 30 years, was the town drunk, and went into sobriety and had been sober for 30 years and just celebrated getting his 30-year chip, and wow, that's so cool. And there was so much excitement and so much support and so much caring for him in that community that he hit a whole new level of vitality, and the next day he fell off the wagon. Why did he fall off the wagon after 30 years of sobriety? Because as the new vitality moved energy through him, a new level of healing was possible. And along with that new level of healing, whatever he used alcohol to suppress 30 years ago, all of a sudden was in his face. As were the molecules, again, or at least the energetic signature of the alcohol, which meant he couldn't think about anything but alcohol. And not understanding that it was in a healing process, fell off the wagon. The attraction to alcohol became overwhelming. So if you realize that you're in a healing process, then pay attention and let go of any kind of addictive demands that your mind or your physiology makes, or you may tend to fall off the wagon again. So that's the process of healing. And, that old song, I never promised you a rose garden. It's not Dr. Feelgood. And that's one of the reasons why people would rather just stay with their addictions. Well, I like feeling good all the time. I don't want to face not feeling good. Let me just go get another shot of that, whatever it was, a fifth of whiskey, and I'm feeling no pain. Well, what if you breathed, you did your work, and let yourself be with your pain instead of running off and having to, stuff it with your addiction? What if you actually stayed with it and let yourself process through it? How profound would that be? How powerful would it be? So that's what we're here to do, is to support an understanding of a conversation from that perspective, and to lay and support healing alongside of treatment in every arena. And when we lay healing alongside of treatment, then miracles happen in people's lives. Physical, mental, emotional, financial, relational miracles happen in people's lives when they step into the healing process. Why? Because relative to the pain and trauma of the average traumatized person in the culture, when a person becomes a conscious creator, life improves so dramatically that it can hardly be fathomed. And so to the average mind, it looks like a miracle has happened. Truth is, not a miracle at all. It's just the process of healing. So we are here to support the conversation about healing. And if you're out there in listener land, we've got about 10 minutes left. What question would you ask about that process or the use of any of the tools? And if you're out there, push 1. We'll be having a conversation. Doug, have you got your thoughts organized yet? So, Miss Jeanie, anything happening in the chat room? Anything happening in the phone queue?
No, it's all quiet, so I turned Doug's microphone back on, so we'll see if he has anything to say. We have 7 minutes.
All right.
Yeah, I really don't think I want to get into anything right now.
That's cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
We did have a hand just go up, so you were.
Well, I hope all is well in
bell.
your world, Doug. Good to say hello.
Yes, sure.
All right. Blessings. Lots of love. Okay, Miss Jeanie, you've got a hand up?
808.
Is this Miss Roma? Aloha, young lady.
Aloha. How is everyone today?
Welcome. We're rocking along here.
Good. Well,
how about you?
We had our planning meeting for the October 15th and 16th Divine Science Ministers Association Zoom retreat. And as it turns out, there are 3 people who we are looking forward to having participate. You're one of them.
Oh, sweet. I look forward to it.
Yeah. So, and Rocco Erico is going to.
Oh, awesome. I haven't talked to Rocco in years. We used to work together a lot. That'd be awesome.
That is, I got so excited when I realized that maybe.
That's so perfect.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know that and ask you, and I'm delighted to hear your response, which doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm just wondering what the 2 of you could cook up. You're both obviously going to have your own time, but then I thought since you're both there, that I thought it might be a wonderful thing to just listen to the 2 of you talk about whatever you want to talk about, or however you want.
Well, I'm open.
Yeah. I thought you might be. So I just wanted to let you know that that's the latest.
Well, that's fabulous. And Rocco is an amazing teacher. He was my first introduction to the Aramaic language, so I'll defer to him on anything Aramaic for sure. But it'll be a delight to be on a platform with him again. Back in the early days, I had a center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I would bring Rocco into my center to speak, and he had one out in California. And he'd bring me in to speak out there. And so I haven't seen him since.
So you're going to be together again.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. That'll be very sweet. And we'll keep people posted on the show so that they'll get to it. It's October the 15th and 16th, correct?
And let's see. Our decision was to invite all the ministers, whether they're members of our association or not. And I don't know. I think anyone can. I'll have to just make sure.
Okay.
Frankly, I think this is rather earth-shaking. The possibility of each of you and then the two of you. So I'll just have to confirm that anyone can participate in it. Not just ministers.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think I'll just try to make sure that we are actually open to anyone who wants to.
Sure. Cool.
Who wants
that
to
is
be
right.
there on the Zoom
conference,
experience?
Isn't it? Yeah.
That's my next
sweet.
My next thing. So.
Awesome. Well, keep us posted. I look forward to it, young lady. That's awesome.
Okay. Very much. Okay. All right. Aloha.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Aloha. Blessings. Thanks for letting me know. Well, that'll be fun to be on a platform with Rocco again. He's an amazing. He is. If you haven't heard of Rocco Errico, he runs a thing called the Noora, Noohra, which is light in Aramaic, the Noora Foundation. He he's sort of the protege of George Lamsa, who did some of the original Aramaic translation work here in America. And Rocco's been rewriting his commentaries and worked for years with Rocco. So it'll be a delight and a privilege to be with him again. And beyond that, we've got about 3 minutes left. So if you're out there in listener land and you'd like to have a 3-minute conversation, we could do that. Don't everybody put your hand up at once. Any other thoughts for you, Jeanie? We're probably down to past the point of entertaining more callers.
Yeah, we're actually counting the outro for less than 2 minutes now. So, no, don't have any other thing. I think, we had talked about it yesterday. One of the things that in the chat room when I was talking with Bob about the depression and, he's actually, I put a link in yesterday's notes. He's written a book, The Gift of Depression. But said, when you take the drug, it's actually just masking it. The problem is still there underneath. And when you quit taking the drug, you've got to face what was under it. So, being willing to go through it and willing to face it and deal with it, and instead of trying to mask it and pretend like it's not there.
Yep. Healing compared to treatment, and an ideal solution is, if you're working with a skilled physician, to have support for treatment and healing as well. It's like the best of both worlds. Sometimes treatment can be very appropriate. If somebody's in a lot of trauma, as Susan had said earlier, gee, I've got a headache. I know I've got a headache. Cancel the thought. I'm blessed. I've never had headaches. But I don't have to just go, oh, well, I have to grit my teeth and go through this headache. Take an aspirin. You've had the warning. There's something going on in your system. You're going to pay attention to it. You're going to do your work around it. So do the treatment. Take the relief. You don't have to hang out and suffer through those things. And make sure that you don't take the fact that the motivation of the suffering has been removed, that you then just say, oh, well, now I'll forget about doing my work around it. And there's work to be done. And we're here to support you in doing your work, and delighted and honored that you're here. I invite you to create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.